welcome all. Welcome to this debate on India-China relations, right? We have covered this topic in the classroom setting, right? Because this is an ongoing issue. Regularly, something or the other related to this is coming in the news. And very recently, in one of the diplomatic victories that India is seeing, China has agreed to go back to 2020 position when, for the first time in Galwan Valley, when China started the standoff with India. So it is a big victory for the diplomatic circles. So the topic of today's discussion, India-China boundary dispute, can China be trusted? Why this is relevant? Because if you all remember, in 1954 we signed a Panchashil agreement with China, right? Despite the fact that we signed a Panchashil agreement, the 1962 war happened. So, is this also withdrawal by China an indication of future war? So, this was the idea that came to my mind, and I decided to choose this topic as the topic of debate for today's discussion. That is the primary idea that I have chosen this topic. Okay? So, for the sake of this debate, the house has been divided into two parts. They are the people on to my left, people who believe India should go closer to China, or the India should not go closer to China. So you are non-believers of China and you are skeptical about China, right? And the audience sitting to my right, the highly learned audience sitting to my right, are the audience who want to go closer to China. Okay? So the house is open for the debate. Anybody who wants to give or talk about what they feel about what is happening, you are free to talk.
So China is in nature considered to be an expansionist state, and also it has border disputes with all the countries which it shares border with. So how can a state, how can India trust a state like that?
My point is following an isolated diplomacy that is not without any connections with the two largest economies or neighboring countries is very bad for not bad. It's not good for emerging economies or emerging countries like India. I wanted to tell that few connections need to be there.
No, but I'm sure they are not talking about complete disengagement. No, they are not talking about complete disengagement. They are saying we don't trust China.
Yes, sir. I wanted to tell that cautiously and carefully, China can be trusted because India is not blindly following any other country. It has its own stand on various international matters. Same like India is cautiously and carefully shall trust China. That's my point.
China have a sources that a palm and 5 fingers, but still, being a expansionist country, it did not try to expansion either any part of our country, because even though it had military bases much more higher than India, so I think we can trust being friendly, because the main motive is they have many military bases, and also the ideology of China is that expansionist country.
Who have military bases?
China, sir.
China has military bases.
That means military, what is there, much more better than
Powerful than India. Okay, technology wise,
Okay,
China
technology
is
wise
powerful.
it is greater, but still it is not trying. So
Okay.
in that point
We
of view,
generally use a terminology called comprehensive national power.
okay, sir.
CNP is the terminology that we use. Comprehensive national power. So CNP of China is bigger than India. That's what you are trying to say.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Please.
So China, now you guys are saying that we can trust China regarding trade. Of course, we have to do trade with all other countries, but just remember one thing. Now China has a military base in Coco Islands, which Myanmar is controlling it, and it took whole part of Myanmar for lease, and it has Hambantota port is under China, and Pakistan's CPEC corridor, if you guys might have known. So all these projects combined together is called a string of pearls, which means from the eastern part of India to the southern part of India and the western part of India, it's called a string of pearls. Now, like if we look at it from far, it's like an ornament, a beautiful ornament. But what people don't understand is that ornament is being used for us to choke out. See, any country, the bases which they have are nothing of strategic importance. But they have a strategic importance, which is towards our country. Those are not used for any research or stuff like that. They are there to, to gather intelligence. How our troops are functioning? How is our navy functioning? What type of developments are we doing? And I can show you with proofs too that China actually has a model cities. Like, for example, when we do boxing, we keep dummies in front of us because on where the critical points we have to hit. They have dummy cities where they'll be training in there, like for invasion and stuff like that. So when a country which has a very much aggressive foreign policy and who's expansionist in nature, he cannot be trusted. Because even if we hold a revolver with us, he'll be having machine guns all over us. So we have to stand on our way, and we cannot completely trust on China.
Okay, you are saying should not trust them. So why we are trusting the goods and products? We are importing and also exporting. So as per 20%, we Indians are exporting our Chinese goods. So in that way, where is your trust? And that means that point
we are
also
exporting
we can
from
trust them.
America, we are exporting from Europe and all other countries. Importing. We are importing other stuff, but those things are being on our terms. It's not like colonial India where East India company claims something and we give them. It is not like that. Things are coming on our terms. But in the previous tenure of the government, I don't want to mention who's ruling that government. But if you ask me, Chinese used to make terms with us and we used to agree on them. And we shouldn't solely rely on China. See, for example, now our parents are there. Now, until a certain age, we'll be taking their resources. But at a point, we'll be independent by ourselves. When we are being independent from our family members itself, who is China? China is some outsider from nowhere. So we have to have our own, let's say Swadeshi goods or stuff like that. But that too, we should have trade with them. It should be on mutual respect, but not on others' terms.
As far as it is concerned with the aggressive expansionist country, but it hasn't poked any country till now. Like I mean to say, it established the peaceful coordination between the countries, because it hasn't raised any war from the last 50 years. So if it comes to expansionist and aggressive, I don't mean that it is aggressive. It may be expansionist in some terms, but it is not completely aggressive country, because it wants to establish peaceful coordination among the countries. Like if you take Israel right now, what is going on? China can involve and become aggressive if it wants to involve in other countries' disputes or something like that. But it wants to maintain peace between the international organizations. It hasn't poked any war till now.
Aishwarya is making one statement. She says that in an increasingly multipolar world, maintaining a balanced relationship with China allows India to pursue an independent foreign policy without over reliance on the West. So she says that it is better to rely on the Eastern partner who shares common cultural, historical past than a Western partner who does not share all these things. So I think she also has a point when she makes a statement that, instead of blindly believing a country which is, say, 10,000 miles away from you, purely on the perspective of West and developed stature, it is better to deeply integrate or interact with a country which is your neighbor and your immediate, geographical partner.
Even though maybe we are trading with USA, maybe it is miles far away from, but 20 years past, Tibet is an independent country. But even though China is expansionist nature without aggression, it was occupied Tibet and it was calling a southern part of China. So how can we trust China?
Also, through its border area counter-attack campaign, they say it is a peaceful negotiating country within the region, but through its attack campaign, their military strategy, they are reclaiming territories within the boundaries of India.
Okay.
How can it be trusted because of these attack campaigns that are going around the...
So there is a trust deficit for China within you. but you are not against trade with China, right? You have a trust deficit. So even though you are trading, you say the guard should be on. Even though you are trading, the guard should be on. Okay, she was trying to say something.
Yeah, I would like to raise a point that you guys are telling. Okay, we will be. We will do continue trade, but we have trust issues when it comes to border, right? So just I want to remind a point here, LAC, which is not defined. That's the main point why we are having a dispute. Unsettlement dispute within China and India. So what I want to raise is here, because it is not defined. It telling. China is spoken like this is our territory. India is also telling no, it's ours. So here the thing is not defining properly the LAC, right? It's not like Pakistan LOC. You guys get the difference between LOC and LAC. Like Pakistan is trying to infiltrate the India, but here China is not doing that. Simply it is pushing. You guys are telling it's pushing back India to back to our territories and claiming that this territory is mine. So what I want to say is not properly defining of LIC is the main thing of disputes between them. So if we get a proper definition of this LAC and proper settlements, then I would say that we won't be having any trust issues in future. So why won't you guys think in that state? So, and I also want to mention that you're telling that it's occupied Myanmar things and in Sri Lanka, it's took English. So why are always considering it as an strategic plan to India? And I want to also mention here, India also investing in Maldives, which is pro to China. Then India is also having the same strategic plans, right? It's simply their own security reasons we are doing. India is doing. So China is also doing its own trade and thing. Until and unless they didn't even disturb any territories which is bounding in Myanmar, Sri Lanka and Pakistan, right? So basing on these points, completely we can't say this is not an, trusting China is not a good thing.
See, first thing, you're saying that China is not sending its troops or terrorists inside India for it to occupy. See, Pakistan is the one who does the dirty work and China is its Malik. Now, for example, I won't do all those dirty stuff like...
Come again.
The dirty work which is being done, is being done by Pakistan. But
Dirty work.
yes,
What is that dirty work?
the dirty work is sending cross-border terrorism
Okay.
and you can say extremist forces.
Okay.
Pakistan has always been a mercenary country where US uses its, for example, if we can see in the Afghan wars, most of
Okay.
the,
Why are you dragging poor Pakistan into India?
I mean,
China
she said Pakistan.
Acha, she said Pakistan.
Yeah, Pakistan.
My amma, you said Pakistan. He has brother-in relationship unnecessarily.
I mentioned each and every locations on that side. I have went to Pakistan.
So, and they said that,
See,
they,
when she made a point, they are believers. Why? Because despite the fact that we have a difference of opinion on LAC with China, except for the 1962 conflict, generally the border has been peaceful. So it is much more better to trust an enemy who has tried at least to maintain peace along the border. That's what they are probably trying to intend.
yes, sir, they are maintaining peace along the border. But the thing is, they have a lot of espionage network in India because be it through cyber.
India also has.
But not as aggressive as China unless they poke us a lot.
Who stopped you?
It's our foreign policy.
So then don't cry about it. You change your foreign policy. Did China dictate India, you have this foreign policy?
It has always, told us we are
You
pro-colonial.
cannot, are you trying to tell China how China's foreign policy should be aligned?
We won't say that how China's foreign policy should be. If China's foreign policy is aggressive in nature, which is like, expansionist, if it claims things from our India, then we have to, be completely opposite to them.
Okay.
Our,
In what sense? What is that being opposite mean to you?
being opposite in the sense like, sir, as you said once that they have used Arunachal Pradesh's territory for war games and stuff like.
Yeah.
So we have to, we should not let those things happen in our territory.
Yes.
We can do war games in our territory. They are not the ones who can do things that are our house right. There has to be a decorum between two countries. So that is the argument which I am saying.
As far as what she said that as soon as the LAC is cleared, it would mean that there would be no contention between India and China. But I would like to point out that China is a known bully. It actually uses the wolf warrior strategy. It is especially apparent in the South China Sea. The international law clearly defines the boundaries of South China Sea that the China can occupy, and it can show its power to. And yet, China is pushing pushing away and is trying to bully other countries. For example, Philippines and Japan, for example. It is trying to occupy more and more territory within the South China Sea, despite the fact that it is not legally within its rights to do so. So, what I would like to say is, even if the LAC is clearly defined, China would
So
not.
there's no
really-
guarantee that China would respect the LAC.
Yes, sir.
Even if the LAC becomes the IB,
Yes, sir.
despite the fact, yes, it's a good point. He has a point when he makes a statement that when you made a mention that it is the ambiguity in the alignment of the IB that is leading to conflict along the borders. So he has a very valid point. He says that, okay, agreed. But China shares boundaries with many countries, 13, 14 odd countries, right? In many of the countries, the boundary is very well beautifully aligned. But despite the fact that China is doing many things to claim territory which is not its own. So the solution, as you suggest, that LAC has to be converted into IB may not work unless and until China does not change its foreign policy approach of expansion. So it is not about the ambiguity of the LAC or the IB. It is primarily the intent with which China is driven to carry out whatever it is to. So he has a valid point to say. How do you counter that?
Sir, when it comes to the South China Sea,
Ah,
India is a member of the Quad, which is intended to counter the China's influence in the South China Sea. But my point is, when India is in a group which is against China, China will create suspicion against India. That suspicion will definitely lead to a war. What I meant to say is, as the 4 other countries in the Quad were meant to where they will look at the South China Sea issues. But when for suppose if China feels that India is doing this, India is countering China with such groups, no other country in the Quad will face a land threat from China except India. No other country will face a land threat. That's my point. My point is,
so you mean to say China will show the Quad aggression on India?
Yes, sir. అంటే ఆ అగ్రెషన్ ని చూపించుకోకుండా ఉండాలంటే మనం ట్రస్ట్ ని బిల్డ్ చేయాలి సార్.
Okay.
ట్రస్ట్ బిల్డ్ చేయాలంటే మనం అటు సైడ్ క్వాడ్ లో ఉంటూనే అటు సైడ్ బ్యాలెన్స్ ని చైనా వైపు మళ్లించాలి. ఏదైతే ఇప్పుడు బార్డర్ మేనేజ్మెంట్ అది ఏదైతే డిసెంగేజ్మెంట్ జరిగిందో అలాంటి డిసెంగేజ్మెంట్స్ చిన్న స్టెప్ బై స్టెప్ కొంచెం ట్రస్ట్ ని పెంచుకుంటూ.
So your basic point of expression is you have to develop the trust with China because at the end of the day he is your geographical partner. He is a geographical neighbor, right? And if you go deeper into Quad and fall prey to the Western designs of Quad, there is a point that you may aggravate the Chinese aggression against India. And being a land boundary neighbor, he would try to be aggressive with you. This is what you want to say? Fine, good. How do you counter that statement? Anyone else? Yeah.
If just being in an alliance could provoke China into attacking India, then it just means that you can't trust China because Quad is at this point it's just more like a political stance rather than any actual.
It is basically a dialogue forum. It is not a grouping as such or something. It's just a dialogue platform.
Yes, sir.
So we are primarily using it only as a dialogue, and in fact, on the platform of Quad, lot of irresponsible statements have been made by the West, especially by the West, and India very intelligently maintained strategic silence. When irresponsible statements were made, India did not endorse those statements. So we are very clever when we deal with our neighbors or any other country in the world. We are very, very mindful of what we talk, mindful of what we write and give it to them. All these things we definitely maintain. Yeah, he wanted to tell something.
Sir, as we are saying, in China is a geographical partner and it's near to India, we can trust China. In United Nations Security Council, China is one of the permanent member which is from the Asian. and no other country still from 20 years India is trying to be a permanent member or get a membership in United Nations Security Council, but still China is not supporting. Even though, as you are saying, that it is a near partner, it is geographical futures which are connect both India and China, it should support at least India, right? Even though India wants to
So it will allow to deeperly firm Asia's voice in the United Nations body. So you feel that China is not coming out clean.
even it at least it was not encouraging India to be a member of part in United Nations.
Okay. Okay, the declaration. So they have a concern that the country that you feel as a friend or something has not been cooperating with India on many issues which are of grave nature, especially related to terrorism, especially related to inclusion of India in the permanent membership of the Security Council. What is your
So
counter
I
argument?
feel
this
like
side?
there is a communication gap between the countries or the diaspora. Communication gap, because if you look at the history of India and China, there is a thousands and thousands of history is associated with between two countries. So the issue arises because of the 1950 or 60s. It has started during that time. So before and all, India was they both are friendly countries. So after that, there was a lack of communication. So this all led to the
The suspicion.
suspicion and the trust issues arised.
Okay, so you mean to say if we sit and talk to China, he will listen to you.
Step by step, if we develop trust, if we make steps to develop trust between India and China,
75
maybe
years is not in.
not in the last 75 years there is no such.
Let him. He has a point.
If there was a clear dialogue between India and China, for suppose, like as we have seen, we have agreed to the 2021 status quo.
2020 status.
Sorry,
Yeah.
2020 status quo. It is only the dialogue, and I think clear amount of work has to be put in
Yes.
to like engage in with China. That will like bring us great loyalty.
See,
as
if
in
you
terms of-
ask me personally, if China has decided and agreed to disengage and go back to the position beyond 2020, don't you think China will expect something in return? They said very vehemently, yes sir, and you have not even responded. Because in international relations, it is all about give and take. So, if they say, yes sir, it will ask something in return, this something could be some preferential trade access to India, could be. So, can I make a statement here? China is using this unsettled boundary dispute as a fault line against India in furthering its own trade ambitions, especially at a time when the global demand is going down. It is seeing India as an opportunity for trade, and without directly seeking for trade, it is trying to arm twist India in by starting these kind of issues. 3-4 years down the line, okay, I agree to go back to 2020, but you increase the trade with me by $20 billion or $30 billion.
say if that's the case, like if our dependence on China would grow rather like being on the west, like say in terms of semiconductor,
Yes,
like Taiwan has a hold.
yes,
Now what US is doing is it is using Taiwan to its own axis, like
yes.
but if we have a cordial relationship with China, it would be of our advantage also, because we also have to grow as a semiconductor.
So you want to trust China, keeping aside the boundary dispute.
Yeah, like we have to concentrate on our boundaries. It is for sure, like we can't let go of our boundary.
Acha, you tell me one thing, guys. When you say we don't trust China, so then what is your counter for that argument? So what are you trying to say when you guys say we don't trust China? But in this globalized world, not engaging with China is not also an answer. Then what is the answer according to you?
Sir, it is a largest expansionist and aggressive country, and it also promotes like terrorism to both the countries. Like
Terrorism, China promoting. Where did you see that?
Sir, in Pakistan and North Korea.
Okay, that's a sweeping statement, but I'll take it with a pinch of salt.
The China-Pakistan economic
Nana,
corridor.
Kotak, Nana.
Sir, China has built the China-Pakistan economic corridor.
Yes.
So
So
it
that
is,
is not terrorism, no?
It is indirectly supporting the Pakistan, no, sir. How
It
can
will
we
support
trust
Pakistan.
China?
They are partners, no? Baba, your friend is wrong in some issue. Other hostel mates come to fight. You know your friend is wrong. Will you support her or not?
I would like to raise a point here. I said that China is supporting Pakistan, right? So how we can say that we can't trust because of China is trusting Pakistan, and I can say America is also supplying arms to Pakistan, right? Then aren't we trusting America? So if we have that much trust in America compared to China, it is good to have a trust building ship to China, which is very near to us, instead of going west.
We always follow non-alignment movement, no?
Yeah. In that
India
non-alignment
is a
also,
non-aligned country,
orienting towards America is much more than China. That's what I want to mention here.
సార్ ఇండియా నాన్ అలైన్మెంట్ అనేది ఇండియా ఇప్పుడు ఫాలో అవ్వట్లేదు. ఇట్ ఈస్ ఫాలోయింగ్ ది మల్టీ అలైన్మెంట్.
Strategic alignment.
సార్ వీ హ్యావ్ రిలేషన్స్ విత్ ఆల్ మేజర్ కంట్రీస్ ఇన్ ది వరల్డ్. ఎటు కాకుండా మనమైతే లేము. మల్టీ అలైన్మెంట్ ఉన్నప్పుడు మన రేపు ఏదైనా సమస్య వచ్చినా కానీ ఆ కంట్రీస్ మనకి హెల్ప్ చేస్తాయి. నాన్ అలైన్మెంట్ ఉన్నప్పుడు ఏ కంట్రీ హెల్ప్ చేయడానికి రాదు. కానీ ఇప్పుడు మనకి ఏదైనా యుద్ధం అనే సిచ్యువేషన్ వస్తే వేరే కంట్రీస్, అమెరికా రావచ్చు, జపాన్ రావచ్చు, లేకపోతే ఇజ్రాయెల్, ఇవి రావచ్చు. మనకి నాన్ అలైన్మెంట్ అనేది అది రాంగ్. దట్ అవును, ఇప్పుడు మారింది. ఇండిపెండెన్స్ వచ్చినప్పుడు యుద్ధం చేసాం, మిస్ట్రస్ట్ అయింది. ఇప్పుడు ట్రస్ట్ పెంచుకుందాం.
See, first thing is we have Israel.
కేర్ఫుల్గా ట్రస్ట్ చేయాలి. కేర్ఫుల్గా ట్రస్ట్ చేయాలంటున్నాం మేము.
So first thing, Russia has been a.
I admire her enthusiasm. She has to be in the border to take care of our border.
So
Yeah, that gentleman wanted to talk something. He took the mic also. Yeah. Your name?
So my point is,
Yeah.
my name is Akshay.
Akshay. Yeah.
My point is that we can't trust anybody in this whole world. Everybody has their own intention and everybody has their own motives. Even America doesn't have any pure ally or a pure enemy.
Yes.
India has also the same stance in everything.
Yes.
So if you say that China is a enemy to us, it's a wrong statement.
Yes.
Say America is an ally to us, it's a wrong statement.
So, because if you remember in the first class, I said in international relations there is no permanent friend or permanent enemy. It is only the permanent interest. So, every country is driven by its national interest. Today, China's national interest would be to enhance trade with India. So, it has gone behind the border. Tomorrow, enforcing my right on the border would be the national interest. Again, it will come forward.
Sir, what I see today is that today China has taken a back step and gone back to 2020 status quo.
Yeah.
They want to invest in India and they want their companies to invest in India. They see a future in India too, because other companies are not trusting China for investment. So other companies like American companies or European,
So, there is a hidden agenda according to.
there is a hidden agenda, but it's for pro India, right?
Yeah.
Putting India, उसमें पैसे डालने तो it's for India.
Good for India.
Yeah.
So, that's how you wish to trust China.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if we can trust Russia for helping us in 1971 war, we can help other people who want to lift us economically also.
Okay. There's somebody wanting to counter your statement. Piche dekh.
To be honest, that was exactly my point. Like, trusting a country and maintaining a trade relationship with that country are completely different points. They are completely different things. For example, America doesn't trust China. America doesn't trust China, and yet it has a great trade relationship with China, where like a major part of imports of America is actually from China. I would say that a trade relationship versus a political relationship are completely different. I mean, they intersect at certain points, but they're not the same. So yeah, we can trade with China, but at the same time, we have to look at it with suspicion and a political stance. It's not an economic issue; it's a political issue.
Okay. Okay. He says that we have to be very careful while dealing with a country like China, which has the capacity to keep economy and politics very differently and run it parallelly. Because in India, we are driven more by emotion rather than by the properly thought out processes. So we need to be very, very careful, and that's where we cannot trust China. Is what they feel. You wanted to tell something?
I need a trust issue.
You have a trust issue.
Issue with China. China policy of salami slicing, a strategy of making incremental territorial advances without provoking an all-out war, often through military and infrastructure developments. So in border dispute areas, especially in the disputed areas along with India and China, China is building their military infrastructure and military mobilization, airstrip construction.
In fact, I would like to add, because very good point he has brought. There was a Pentagon report last year on China.
Yes.
Pentagon is the military headquarters of America, right? In this report, America very, very, very beautifully brought out what is the future strategy of China against India. In that, it spoke about this strategy of salami slicing strategy. What is the name of the strategy? Salami slicing strategy. So, China is trying to open up fronts along the entire border, disputes along the entire stretch of border from west till the east, and training its middle level officers of how to occupy the ground. Because after 1962, China has not fought war with anybody. And all the military leaders who are middle level and high level military officers today, they do not have any war experience as such. So the Indian boundary dispute was used as a training strategy for the middle level and the senior level officers in training them how to occupy an enemy territory in the event of a war. And also the Pentagon report did not stop here. It said that it is preparing their military leaders how to occupy Taiwan in future. So because they cannot go to Taiwan for military drill practice, so China has used the boundary with India to carry out this. So now somewhere that purpose seems to be fulfilled. Because that purpose has since been fulfilled, now China is very happily going back on the border. So this we need to understand, that we are also being used by China to gain certain military strategies upper hand against India.
Whatever the report came out, it is of the USS think tank.
Yeah, it is but what the Pentagon report,
What I see is like USA is.
It is not a subjective report. They will corroborate all the information with satellite pictures. They will give proof to everything. ऐसा नहीं है कि चाइना अमेरिका इज इंडिया और चाइना के बीच में कोई फूट डालने की कोशिश कर रहा है, ऐसा नहीं. इट इज नॉट लाइक यूएसए इज ट्राइंग टू एंटेगनाइज इंडिया एंड चाइना, ऐसा नहीं. वट एवर दीज डेटाज आर गिवन, they are properly military study happens on them. Based on that studies, yes, I agree, the possibility of over exaggeration could be there.
Like China is growing as a counter to US, like in terms of global trade or
Yes, there is a trade war going on between China.
in order to keep China shut, like US
Could be a possibility, trying to blow up the issue beyond what it is actually, so that India responds in a particular way. A person sitting behind also, I feel he wants to talk something. Give the mic to him once.
Sir, actually, I need a counter argument for this. How they defend Chinese.
So I would like to add a point. As you told that China is using India as a training ground for future invasion in Taiwan, right? It's a good argument at all, because it has a lot of small neighbors around it, and it can't choose and poke India for a training ground, I think.
But with those neighbors, the disputes have been settled.
It has a border dispute with Vietnam. It has a border dispute with Philippines.
With Vietnam, it is basically a sea.
Yeah.
Not much of a land border.
But still there are people who are fighting over it, and there is daily fighting to ho raha hai wahan pe.
Yes, in fact, if you know the modern history of China, it has a lot of boundaries with the Central Asian countries. And many countries for that matter, right? And very beautifully, very fastly, when China was born as an independent nation, very quickly it resolved all the boundary disputes. Very quickly. And the intention was, the moment the boundary disputes are resolved, as an exchange to settlement of the boundary dispute, it got access to the natural resources from the Central Asian. Just see, its boundary disputes resolution is not driven by the idea of resolving a boundary dispute. No. It is driven by the idea, if there is a boundary dispute, he will not trade with me because of the pending boundary dispute. So if he has to trade with me, I have to resolve the boundary disputes. Immediately resolved all the boundary disputes, went and got all the resources. See, China is the manufacturing hub of the world.
Sir, can you tell the time frame, sir, of this whole thing?
50s and 60s.
At the time, USSR was the whole person who was in control of
Who?
USSR.
USSR.
No. 50s and 60s, Central Asian countries. When I say Central Asian countries, these are not the satellite countries which came out of USSR.
But they are aligned to USSR, right?
Yes. दोनों भाई है, हिंदी चीनी भाई type से. The USSR and China are communist brothers only, no? Especially after the 1991, all these Central Asian countries which were formed, all your Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan and all, instantly China resolved all the boundary disputes. Almost instantly. Why? Because it wanted to take that advantage before the West tries to come and have a deeper engagement with them. It immediately went there. That is the biggest thing, obviously, on the insistence of America. Because America told China that agar tum inke saath the boundary dispute continues, they will not trade with you. See, at the end of the day, couple of things, I keep telling this in the classrooms. America and China are friends. Understand this. The day you understand this, your idea of entire international relations will be clear. America and Russia are friends. America and Saudi Arabia are friends. America and Israel are friends. China and Russia are friends. ये ऐसी दोस्ती है कभी टूटेगी नहीं, क्योंकि बदमाश है सारे, तो इसलिए दोस्ती गहरी है. So understand, because they have hidden agendas of doing things, and never ever a point will come when America will directly fight China. It won't. It won't. Because if it does that, the weakness of America is revealed to the world. So it will push China to the brink of war, but it will not. Trade war is happening. If now, say for example, with Russia also American differences are there over Ukraine. Other than giving money to Ukraine, did America attack Russia till date? It's been almost 3 years now, Ukraine war, February 2022, 24th February 2022. America did not involve itself directly. So what happens is, understand, if China has withdrawn today, please do not go home that America is not aware of it. Please do not go home with an idea that America is not involved in this big game. Definitely they all consult each other. They do not tell the world for sure, but they definitely consult each other. And big games happen in the international relations. We only know what comes in the newspaper. We do not know what actually happening on the ground. So we start making judgments or assumptions based on what we read in the Hindu newspaper. But the Hindu newspaper is not 100% true. It only gives information which information is officially made public by the government. But what has happened now, you know the Office of Special Representative of India, where Ajit Doval is the Special Representative of India to resolve the boundary disputes with China, right? 17-18 rounds of talks have happened from 2020 till date. 17-18 talks. It means if 4 years, 18 talks, means at least every quarter he was visiting China to talk about this, right? So do you think this was happening without the knowledge or blessing of America? It doesn't. So understand, try to understand the big picture. When he spoke about investments, it is, yes, we can benefit out of investment, right? But always remember, does India have the institutional capacity to withhold this investment? If we do not have the institutional capacity, this blessing will become the biggest curse. What has happened with the Southeast Asian nations? 1998 Tiger economy crisis. It will be taught to you in future. Entire Thailand economy almost collapsed. Entire Vietnam economy almost collapsed because without institutional arrangements in place, they opened their economy. So even when this is happening with an intention to bring more investments into India, but are we ready? See, Thailand is a small country. No? You go to Thailand, 70 floor, 80 floors building is a common phenomenon there. How many 70 floor buildings are there in Hyderabad? Not even one. And there it is a common phenomenon because the investments came in the 60s and 70s. The moment ASEAN as a group was found, investment just rushed into the Southeast Asia. Money just got poured in. So when you seek money from Chinese investors or the Singaporean investors, the bigger question is, are we ready? And what is the environmental price that we are going to pay? So this suspicion should come there. Am I being forced to grow at a rate which I cannot sustain? Am I being forced to accept investment which I cannot handle because I do not have the institutional capacity? So that dimension also has to be read. That is the reason why India puts a lot of conditions in investments. We are not as aggressive. See, first and foremost, that's why we always say, no, Hindu rate of growth. India is at the end of the day a conservative economy. The goal of Abhi government started talking, I want to grow at this rate, I want a Vikasit Bharat. This was not the stand of government in the past. So when you look at India, China, always when they have suspicion, they have a reason. But they have a faith, they also have a reason. Because they feel for growth, partnering with China is important. He brought about the issue of Taiwan, the semiconductor industry. Taiwan is a global leader in the semiconductor industry. In fact, China is also one of the global leaders in semiconductor industry. And we need that today. But is it needed at the cost of, just putting under the carpet the border issue? So that is where you need to think. Yeah, somebody from
So,
here.
also, in support of your statement, it's a fact that China actually does not need the land that is in dispute with India. To be fair, because it does not actually need the land. An example could be shown: Imperial China, when it was under attack by Imperial Russia, it surrendered large tracts of land, which under the condition that after about 200 years or so, Russia will give the land back to China. And since then, the treaty has expired, and so the land could be recovered by China if it wanted to from Russia, and yet it's not even trying to do that. Actually, evidence for that is actually present in Russia. There are many plagues that actually show this agreement that is written on them. So, if China actually wanted more land, then it could happily take it from
See,
Russia.
it is
Yeah,
not
yet
about
it's not doing
land.
that.
China is one of the largest countries of
Yes, sir.
It is about the resources. It is not about a piece of land. It is about now, say for example, Aksai Chin. We have a big problem with China related to Aksai Chin, that it is physically occupying the Aksai Chin which belongs to India, right? It does not have any resources there. It is said that not even a blade of grass grows in Aksai Chin.
Yes, sir.
But still China is holding on to Aksai Chin.
Yes.
There is a reason for that. Because the road connecting Lhasa to Xinjiang traverses along the Aksai Chin. And for China, that is a strategic road network. So it cannot give away that road network to any country for that matter. So it has got strategic interest also. When we talk about India-China relations, see, China is one country which has generally not come out clean. At least America tells that I mean business. But China has never generally come out of, cleanly on what it actually wants. Not only India, the entire world is not ready to blindly trust China. Not only India, it is the entire world that finds it very difficult to blindly trust China. Because it does not tell, like COVID happened, and we know somewhere China is responsible for COVID, right? So somewhere China has not come out very clean while dealing with the other countries of the world, right? So this has created see, this suspicion on China is not new. Ever since 1948, the world is finding it difficult to believe China because, first of all, there is no democracy there. So, in the absence of democracy, the institutional liberty is not there. You will never hear about the Chinese central bank made this statement. You will never hear, because they will control the entire machinery of the state in the way they want to, and they will not allow any institution to speak openly what is the reality. So this is where the trust on China generally does not come so easily. Even the COVID-19, what I was trying to say, the world knows China is responsible for COVID-19, but China has not said even one sorry also till date. So this is where the world is not ready to believe China. And when one of the parties says, no, we don't want to believe China, but at the same time, they also make a statement that though we do not believe China, but at the same time, it is not that we don't want to trade. That's what they're trying to say. But we are not ready to believe China because 54 example, 62 example, in fact, not only 62, 1967, we almost fought a war with China in the Sikkim. Nathula Pass ke pass, we almost fought a very big war in 1967 with China. So this is where even after the war, a war was imminent. You know what happened in Doklam. We know many a times China has blocked what you call the access to Kailash Mansarovar, the pilgrimage of India on these lines. And China has not signed any water sharing agreement with any countries in the world. In fact, you see the Mekong Ganga Corporation, the Mekong River, it has constructed dams on the Mekong River of this size that it can control the 50% flow of the water. If it wants, it can create flood situation in the riparian, lower riparian countries, and if it wants, it can create a drought situation also. So this is where the world is not ready to believe in China. So there is nothing wrong if India is also going or moving ahead with caution. India also has a, see, somebody made a statement, I think he was the one who said China is spying on India. He made a statement, China is spying on India. Who is not spying on whom today? You are being spied, I am being spied, the entire country is being spied, we are spying, as per a report, the maximum spam calls and SMS generations are happening in India. Though India is also a target, but India is also an aggressor. So we cannot make a conclusionary statement that somebody alone is trying to keep an eye on us. There are a lot of operations which happen in the dark, which do not come in the public domain. We also keep a very close eye on China. It is not that India is not aware why this disengagement happened. We very much know why this disengagement happened. But even though we know, we have to be very carefully going in that particular path of disengagement, how to see that in future such engagements do not happen. See, understand one thing, just making an announcement that disengagement has been agreed to execute that on ground, it will take more than a year. ऐसा नहीं है कि आज बीजिंग में announcement हो गया, कल सुबह everybody will go back. No. Even if they go back, there will be a lot of ifs and buts. You will not agree to what was the point of 2020 also. So there could be a disagreement there as well, right? So it is very much possible that there could be a situation when there could be a disagreement in the point of disengagement also. And that can also lead to a conflict or a standoff. Okay, you promised in 2024 that you will go back to 2020 position, but today's 2026, you are still not going back. Again a standoff. It is very much possible. See, but at the same time, as he was trying to put in a word, see, in a globalized world, you cannot stay aloof. In a globalized world, you cannot stay aloof. Now, the world is all about opportunism. Understand this. If this situation is creating an opportunity for us to make benefit or profit out of it, we should go for it. The way we have tried to use the situation to gain from Russia, We are see, the India-Russia trade never touched $4 or $5 billion also. Never ever in the entire history of our relationship. But today, the trade is touching 60, 70, 80 billion dollars overnight, एक साल के अंदर, because we are importing so much of crude oil from Russia, where we are trying to use it as a strategic reserves. So this is where, then in that case, are we also not opportunist? We are also opportunist. If we are opportunist, why are you not allowing China to be opportunist? It also wants, because the global growth prospect, the global demand is going down, and it sees demand in India. It knows if I settle this dispute, the trade with India will increase. So probably that is using it for its own opportunity. So there is nothing wrong in that. But the only point is, when you write any answer or give a answer in an interview in the UPSC board, be mindful, always use the word, sir, India has to be very, very cautious. Both diplomacy and also military intelligence should be activated, where we know what is the real intent of China and what is the next move of China. One is what is the real intent of China. The second is what is the next move of China. If we are capable of doing this, even though the intention may be bad, we know how it will respond and we know how to counter that response of China. So with that statement, you can conclude the what you call whatever the answer or whatever.
Sir, I will add some more lines to it. I will add some more lines. So we need a strategic trust, cautious optimism. So in our
Cautious optimism is what we spoke about, right?
while we can't fully trust China, engaging in constructive dialogue and focusing on shared benefits might gradually lead to more stable relations.
That's what. When I said shared benefit, no? He is seeking semiconductors from China. China is seeking something from India. See, RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. It is a China-led regional grouping. It is a China-led regional grouping. Ever since the concept of RCEP was put forward, India has been advocating add services also in that. But China knows India is a strong competitor in services, IT services, IT enabled services. China has vehemently objected to including services in the ambit of trade. So India said, if you do not put a product in the ambit which I am strong at, and only put products which you are strong at, and asking me to join you, because it is a free trade agreement. The idea of free trade agreement is no tariff. In the absence of tariff, if I engage with China, all my manufacturing sector will be doomed. So this India knows very, very carefully, and India decided not to join the RCEP because it was a caution. So diplomatic caution was exercised, and we decided fine. See, understand, not being a part of, very important, understand this, not being a part of regional grouping is not a good idea. आपके बगल में इतना बड़ा ग्रुपिंग आ गया, and if you are not part of it, it means you are losing a big chunk of economic opportunity also. But because the cons or the negatives overweighed the positives of joining that grouping, India decided not to. And somewhere China is directly responsible for it. Because again, it created it did not say no for services. He said, "Baad mein dekhte hain." Then India said, "Okay, fine. You want to do it afterwards, no? Tell me the date." India told very clearly, "You tell me the date, 1st January 2026. Based on that, India dragged. In fact, the RCEP launch was delayed because of India for 4 years. Because India was dragging its feet. You tell me, which date you want to start. Because already when we signed the free trade agreement with Japan, our iron and steel industry almost collapsed. With lot of difficulty, with so much of fiscal stimulus from the government, we could withstand our iron and steel industry. Because we went with emotion, Japan ke saath free trade agreement, not realizing he's the world pioneer in iron and steel production. And almost my iron and steel industry collapsed. So that is what, it was a learning lesson from the past, that we should not be carried away by emotion. You should have some calculations. And in this calculation, we were not understanding when he will give us the, opportunity to trade in services. And India said, you tell me a date, 26, 27, 28, you tell me, I'll tell you when will I join. But China was not coming out clean. So this is the tactics of China. It does not come out clean. That raises the suspicion against China by any other country. Okay? So understand this. That is the biggest thing. Okay? So thank you very much. It was a great debate.